Pawn Stars guest gets a huge $48,000 offer for his guitar, then he backs out at the last moment. When it comes to vintage guitars and rare musical instruments, few shows have captured the public's fascination quite like Pawn Stars. With its blend of history, negotiation, and personality-driven drama, the show has become a cultural touchstone for collectors, musicians, and casual viewers alike. One particularly memorable episode featured a guest who brought in what he believed was a valuable guitar, but what unfolded next was more than just a simple appraisal or sale. It was a high-stakes moment that left everyone involved on edge. The guest, a middle-aged man named Mark, walked into the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas with a well-worn case slung over his shoulder. His demeanor was calm, but there was a noticeable tension in the way he handled the case. He wasn't flashy or overly confident, just a regular guy with something he thought might be worth a little extra cash. As usual, Rick Harrison, the shop's owner, greeted him with his signature mix of skepticism and curiosity. Mark opened the case to reveal a 1960s-era Gibson ST Standard, one of the most iconic electric guitars ever made. Known for its distinctive double cutaway body and association with legendary players like Eric Clapton and Angus Young, the SG is a highly sought-after instrument among collectors and musicians alike. The moment Rick laid eyes on it, his interest peaked. Rick handed the guitar off to Corey, the shop's resident music expert and Rick's son-in-law, who immediately began inspecting it. Corey carefully checked the serial number on the headstock, examined the electronics, and strummed a few chords to test the tone. He noted the wear and tear on the body, the originality of the hardware, and the condition of the neck. After a few minutes of close inspection, he turned to Rick with a look that said, "This could be something special." "It's a real 63, Corey confirmed, and it's in pretty good shape considering its age. Original pickups, original finish, looks like someone played the hell out of it back in the day." Rick raised an eyebrow. "How much do you think it's worth?" Corey hesitated. "If it's all original and in this condition, we're probably talking anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. That number hung in the air like a live wire. Mark, who had expected maybe a few thousand at best, looked stunned. Rick, always the businessman, quickly shifted into deal mode. "How much are you looking to get for it?" he asked. Mark stammered slightly. I don't know. I figured maybe $5,000. Maybe $10,000 if I was lucky." Rick smirked. "Well, you might be luckier than you think." After a brief discussion between Rick, Corey, and Austin, the young apprentice who often plays the role of the enthusiastic observer, they came up with an offer: $48,000. It was a strong number, just under the top end of their estimate, and reflected both the guitar's value and the risk involved in reselling such a high-ticket item. Rick leaned forward and extended his hand. $48,000. Cash. "What do you say?" Mark stared at Rick's outstretched hand. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then slowly he nodded. "Yeah, that sounds good." Everyone in the room relaxed a bit. Corey went to prepare the paperwork. Austin grabbed a camera to document the transaction, and Rick gave a satisfied nod. The deal was all but done. But then, just as Corey returned with a contract and a pen, Mark suddenly froze. I don't know," he said, shaking his head. "Wait, can I think about this for a second?" Rick blinked. "You want to think about taking $48,000 in cash for a guitar?" Mark looked down at that SG, cradling it almost protectively. "It's not just a guitar," he muttered. "It belonged to my dad." The mood in the room shifted instantly. What had been a straightforward business deal now took on a deeply personal dimension. My dad bought this in the 60s, Mark continued. He was a musician, not famous or anything, but he played around town, mostly blues bars and small clubs. This was his baby. He taught me how to play on it when I was a kid. I remember sitting on the couch with him, picking out chords. His voice trailed off for a moment. When he spoke again, it was softer. After he passed away, I kept it. Never sold it. Never really played it either. Just kind of held on to it, like a piece of him. Rick exchanged a glance with Corey. They had seen deals fall apart before, sometimes because of price disputes, sometimes because sellers got cold feet. But rarely did emotion play such a central role. You don't have to make a decision right now, Rick said gently. You can take it home, sleep on it. If you come back tomorrow, the offer still stands. Mark nodded slowly, clearly torn. He looked at the guitar one last time, then placed it back in its case. Thanks, he said quietly. I'll let you know. And with that, he walked out the door. Over the next few days, the team at the pawn shop talked about little else. Corey speculated that Mark would return after all. How many people walk away from nearly $50,000, Austin? Ever the optimist, hoped the guitar would stay with its original family. Rick, meanwhile, remained pragmatic. If he doesn't come back, he doesn't come back, Rick said. People get attached to things. Sometimes money isn't enough. But days turned into weeks, and Mark never returned. Then, just when the team had all but forgotten about the SG, a call came in. It was Mark. I've made a decision, he said. Rick picked up the phone, curious, and there was a pause on the other end of the line. I'm not selling it. Rick exhaled through his nose, a mixture of disappointment and understanding in his tone. That's your call, he said. No hard feelings. Thanks, Mark replied. I couldn't part with it. Not after thinking about everything. Rick smiled faintly. Family heirlooms are like that. Later, Rick shared the story with the camera crew, reflecting on the experience. You know, people always ask me why we do what we do, he said. They think it's all about the money, the deals, the thrill of the hunt. But the truth is, it's about stories. Every item that walks through that door has a story behind it. Some of them we get to be part of, and some of them we just witness. He paused, then added with a chuckle, still, 48 grand is nothing to sneeze at. Back at home, Mark sat in his living room, the old SG resting across his lap. He hadn't touched it in years, but now, with his father's memory fresh in his mind, he picked out a few familiar chords. The sound was warm, rich, exactly like he remembered. As he played, a smile crept across his face. Some things, he realized, were simply priceless. In the world of Pawn Stars, where every item tells a story and every deal carries the weight of history, moments like these remind us that value isn't always measured in dollars and cents. Sometimes it's the emotional connections, the memories tied to objects, that hold the greatest worth. Mark's decision to keep the guitar may have cost him a small fortune, but in doing so, he preserved something far more valuable, a tangible link to his father, to his childhood, and to a life lived through music. For Rick and the team at the pawn shop, it was another day at the office filled with surprises, negotiations, and human drama. But for Mark, it was a choice that would echo through the rest of his life. And in the end, that's what Pawn Stars is really about. Not just the items themselves, but the people